G'day, everybody. Tim Dwyer back again, and it brings me no joy whatsoever to bring this video to you. I'm going to try and make this as short and sharp and shiny as I possibly can, and I'm not going to share the screen and bring up a PowerPoint, but I am going to just read a whole bunch of stuff to you, and it will be quick. It will be very quick. So today it's all about identifying terrorists and the results of terrorism. And I encourage you to watch this right to the end. Please watch this right to the end. Terrorism, the unlawful use of violence or threats to intimidate or coerce civilian populations or a government with the goal of furthering political or social or ideology objectives. The state of fear and submission produced by terrorism, a terrorist method of governing. Intimidation or coercion by instilling fear. And if we look at Victoria at the moment and all around Australia, I think that rings true. Now, the League of Nations, which is now called the UN, the United Nations, definition of terrorism in 1937, terrorist acts are all criminal acts directed against a state or a nation and intended or calculated to create a state of terror in the minds of a particular persons or group of persons or the general public. Does this sound something like what's going on in Australia at the moment? The most universally accepted definition of terrorism is there is no universally agreed definition of terrorism. At best, we have a most universally accepted definition of terrorism, which is the following. Terrorism is the use of violence. See what the Victorian police were up to on the weekend? You got to love that. Here in South Australia, the police are going around and fining businesses thousands of dollars and violating them. So violence to create fear, i.e. terror, psychological fear. And in the minds of people that I've spoken to is they're not scared of the virus, they're scared of the fine, they're fearful of their government for 1, political, 2, religious, or 3, and here's the dangerous one, the ideological reasons. Ideologies are systems of belief derived from worldviews that frame human and social political conditions, i.e. the Great Reset, i.e. Agenda 2030. The terror is intentionally aimed at non-combatant targets, unarmed populations, civilian people, i.e. civilians, or iconic symbols. Try Anzac Day. Try the Shrine of Remembrance being fenced off. Try having Easter shut down. Try having Christmas shut down. These are our symbols of who we are, and the terrorists are depriving those from us. And the objective is to achieve the greatest attainable publicity for the group or the cause or the individual. Isn't that interesting? Think about what's going on all over Australia and has done for the last 15, 16 months. Unbelievable. More than 5 years ago, the World Economic Forum leader, Klaus Schwab, gave an interview in which he promised that an implantable global health pass microchip would be unveiled within the next 10 years to track and control all of humanity. Now, there are those in Parliament in this country, or those who think they're in Parliament, talking about giving us a passport to travel from state to state and to enter various venues. Interesting. An article by Ethan Huff from Natural News said, even though the Wuhan virus had not yet been unveiled by the medical deep state, Schwab already knew that a catalyst was soon to come that would forever change the landscape of our world. This is all done by design, good people. And as a part of his globalist reset agenda, Schwab explained that eventually it will be a requirement for humans to be microchipped in order to buy and sell. just like they told us in Revelations 13:16, the prophecies are coming true. You are living in biblical times, whether you believe it or not is another thing. Now, if we go back and have another little look at Adolf Hitler, in 1933, Hitler introduced a passport. Now, I can't pronounce the German version of it. This passport gave access to museums, public buildings, cinemas, studies, and work. And according to the law of April the 7th, 1933, Nairians should be prevented from entering public facilities because, among other things, there was a danger of transmitting serious disease to the Aryan population. During the Nuremberg trial, this passport and the law of adopting it was one of the counts of prosecution against the political, the military leaders of Nazi Germany for criminal discrimination for those who were not Aryans. Just as a note, the war started 6 years later. Just saying. Now, we have a bloke in Canberra, I will call him Mad Dog Morrison, and his global elites, who are actually professional parasites. These are his masters. They would have the same inhumane, disgusting passport introduced into our beautiful country. And this is being done through terrorism, mass fear programs, and every aspect of media is being used as a weapon against the Australian people. So what I did was I decided I would go and have a bit of a look around and see what's going on. You see, a little while ago, we had some terrorists running around in Melbourne, and they were called lone wolves. One bloke ran through a crowd of people and killed some people in his motor car. Other people shot other people, and these were all lone wolf terrorism. And the whole nation was absolutely appalled at the behavior of these people and called for, really harsh penalties because of these terrorist acts. Now, I had a look today, right now, about 15 minutes ago, on the TGA website. I went to www.tga.gov.au/periodic/ that nasty word that I can't say on a video, weekly safety report dated the 27th of the 5th, 2021. Here's the story of what has come out of this mass government supported and promoted program of having medications highly recommended. Over 22,000 people have been injured. 22,000 people have reported injuries. And keep in mind, globally, it's accepted that it is only between 1% and 10% of all the injuries ever get reported because it's just too difficult to report. That means 4,400 people a month have been injured. If this was a different group of people, if these people were of a particular religious belief that are causing this, all hell would pay out. But because this is being done by the honourable person and the medical profession, it's supposed to be correct. Well, anytime you can wander around the country and injure 4,400 a month, I think that's terrorism. And to the 23rd of May, 2021, they reckon they've put out 3.6 million doses of this stuff that I can't talk about, that's been given in Australia. 210 people have died from it. 210. Now put this in perspective. If this was a other group of people and they'd killed 210 Australians, would your blood boil? Would you say, for God's sake, get off your fat, lazy ass and stop this? 210. That's 42 a month being killed. They're being killed. And I say by an act of terrorism. Now, most of these reports, according to the TGA. 93% of them were people over the age of 65, and over 3/4 were 75 years of age and over. And many of the deaths relate to elderly in aged care residents, as if they don't matter. These people built this damn nation. They matter more than you can ever imagine. They are somebody's brother, sister, mother, grandmother, somebody's dear relative that they have shed tears over. And it is acceptable. Well, I will say to Scott Morrison and your band of terrorists and every premier in every state and every health minister, these deaths are not acceptable. These injuries are not acceptable. In the UK, 1,100 have died. In the US, over 4,000, nearly 5,000 have died. In Europe, nearly 12,000 have died. It is not acceptable. 600,000 people have been damaged. Under what guise of what sort of BS story that you're telling yourself can this be justified as acceptable? Ladies and gentlemen, we here in Australia, under my belief, just my opinion, you can have whatever opinion you like. My opinion says this is not acceptable. And I believe that everybody wearing a uniform that's supposedly to be a police officer is acting criminally. I believe that every doctor in this country that's administering this stuff is acting as an executioner. And I believe that every politician, state and federal, sitting and also those in opposition, in your silence, you give consent to the slaughter of Australians by terror. My name's Tim Dwyer. That's it for me today. You guys think about this. And if you're happy to live under a terrorist government, God help us, because I'm not.